This is CineStill 400D. It is a 400 speed daylight balanced color negative film. The first thing I noticed is that it has a nice warm tone to it. And the second thing I noticed is that I probably could have taken better pictures. I don't shoot a whole lot of CineStill, and I kind of forgot that it doesn't have an anti-halation layer. I wish I would have taken a few shots pointed at a light to show the halation, but this is about as good as it gets. It's no secret that CineStill takes existing cinema film and removes the remjet layer to make its products. For example, CineStill 800T is just Kodak Vision 3 500T without the remjet layer. So when 400D was announced, I just assumed that it would be probably 250D with the remjet layer removed. Fortunately for me, a while back a viewer named Colin reached out and asked if I wanted to try some expired 250D that was originally cut down from IMAX stock. I said absolutely, but at the time I didn't actually know what I was going to use it for. When 400D was announced, I thought this would be a perfect way to compare the two. Unfortunately, the 250D was expired, and while I was told I could get decent results, I hadn't seen it for myself, so I wasn't really sure what to expect. So I took one roll of 400D and one roll of 250D and I shot them side by side. The negatives look very similar. To be honest with you, I wasn't expecting that. So I shot the 250D at 200, whereas the 400D was shot at 400. The 250D has this pronounced yellow cast over everything. A couple of the shots look similar, but it's not really fair comparing fresh film to expired film. I could correct it and make it look close, but whether they're the same, it's kind of inconclusive comparing these two specific rolls. There's a good amount of similarities, and it makes me wonder, is this actually re-rolled 250D? Fortunately, CineStill has some answers on their website. When asked, is 400D a repackaged motion picture film without remjet, they respond with a definitive no. If you look inside the 400D box, it says, this emulsion was originally designed to be processed in ECN2. And correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, ECN2 is used exclusively for motion picture stocks, meaning that this is a motion picture emulsion, but if they applied it to a base without remjet from the factory, it's now technically not a repackaged motion picture film. Is that a cheeky way of getting around the question? I don't know. I'm just going on a bit of a tinfoil rant here. But speaking of motion picture stocks, I did a motion picture thing and I bleach bypass the next roll. It has that classic bleach bypass high contrast look, and some of the colors did seem to shift a little bit. That could be from the bleach bypass process, or it could just be my sloppy processing. Either way, it looks interesting. For the next roll, I cross-processed it in E6. Fortunately for me, if there are any weirdness in the colors stemming from the development, you most likely won't be able to tell with this. If you look at the highlights, you can see some of the remnants of the orange mask, but unlike other normal C41 cross-processed in E6, the orange isn't overbearing, although the shadows and the midtones are veiled in this purple cast. Generally speaking, for most C41 films, you need to overexpose or overdevelop it around 2 stops if you want to cross-process it in E6 chemistry. So I metered this as if it was 100 speed. The highlights are blown out, and the shadow details are starting to go, which makes any high contrast scene really hard to meter for. If I wanted to pull details from the sky, I would have to underexpose it by a stop or 2, and if I wanted more details in the shadows, I would need to overexpose it another stop. And there really isn't a whole lot of latitude here in post. Although I really wasn't surprised by these results because I've seen this before with cross-process 800T. I mean, they look similar. These were all shot in the same place and the lighting was all kind of the same. I wish I would have shot it more in daylight like this, but this makes me think that this is what happens when you accidentally develop and grape soda. For 120, at the end of the roll, there's this adhesive strip that they use to keep the film from unspooling, and they have these little check boxes right here for push processing. They say that this can be pushed to 3200, so I pushed the next roll to 3200. Yeah, something obviously went wrong. I've pushed color film before 3 stops without any issues, and given how CineStill says that you could push this 3 stops, I didn't think this would happen. Something went wrong. Most likely on my end. I could have metered wrong, I could have developed it wrong. I'm under the impression that this should have worked, but honestly, I don't know what happened. The silver lining is that I could at least show you that even if you underexpose or underdevelop it, you can still pull a good amount of detail out of this roll. It doesn't look good, but you could salvage some of it. And look, I finally got some halation, so there's that, I guess. Finally, I cross-processed this last roll in black and white chemistry. How does it fare as a black and white film? It looks alright. There's nothing really special about it. I like the amount of contrast, the grain is unobtrusive. It's pretty much a complete waste of money to do this though, but it yields perfectly fine looking results. If you needed to shoot black and white and all you have was this one roll, I mean, it's viable, I guess. But of course I decided to trichrome it as well, and it didn't turn out looking great. The colors are a bit faded, and there seems to be a bit of a purple-red cast in the shadows. This second trichrome is something else. It looks like color infrared. I used the standard red filter, exposed it normally, and the red channel doesn't look like it's overexposed, but the foliage definitely has that glow to it. And this is what the tree normally looks like. This isn't some overly red tree or anything. There's really nothing special about it. It might have just been the sun hitting it at the right angle or something, but I really don't know what's going on here. But I don't think this is actually infrared, because if you look at the other trichrome, all the other foliage looks normal. I think this is just some weird one-off. And I wish I had more rolls to test this with, but sadly, this is all I have. While this isn't really my kind of film, I'm just happy to see that there's more variety out there, so good stuff, CineStill. Keep it up.